Good, good. How was the New Year's Eve celebrations?
Yeah, it was good. It was pretty low-key, even though it looked pretty wild.
Oh, fair enough.
Wasn't too bad.
So you're not feeling too rough, even 3 days later, I guess, over there.
No, I was fine the next day. Yeah, I didn't go too bad.
Yes.
My boyfriend was pretty dusty the next day.
Well, someone's got to do it, I guess. He just made up for the space you left him.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get down to it. So I guess the main question is, are you still Rowdy Bec Rawlings, or are you now Bare Knuckle Bec?
Rowdy Bec Rawlings. I don't think I'll ever get rid of that nickname.
Fair play, fair play. So I wanted to ask you about, you got this bare knuckle boxing fight coming up. It's to defend your title there. But it's a bit of a unique journey for you. Like, when most people leave the UFC, they try and pursue MMA and other promotions. Why did you go for bare knuckle boxing?
Look, they pursued me. It kind of just fell in my lap. The day that I was released from the UFC, I just happened to check my messages and came across their message asking if I'd like to fight for them. And I straight away looked into it because I thought, bare knuckle boxing sounds pretty cool to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started looking into it, and I definitely thought, the sport was perfect for me. I love boxing, and I love the bare knuckle aspect. It's not too far different from MMA gloves, so I definitely felt like I had the advantage in that sport. And I've always wanted to try boxing. I've always had a love for it, so that was my avenue to give it a go.
It's interesting you mentioned about the being similar to MMA gloves. When it comes to punching without gloves, what are the differences? Obviously, some people say that you're more likely to get injured. Have you found that to be the case? Does it hurt more when you punch? What's the differences?
Yeah, you got to be more precise where you're punching, and you can't be, throwing like 10 punch combinations and hitting people in the top of the head or in the back of the head, because you're really going to injure your hands. Mm-hmm. But to be hit bare knuckle doesn't really feel any different to MMA gloves. So yeah, you just got to be a little bit more careful so you don't break your hands. And after my first fight, they were pretty swollen, but I went in there and I didn't hold back. And I didn't break anything, so that was pretty good.
Do you think bare knuckle boxing is a sport on the rise? Because Johnny Hendricks was a big name in the UFC, he's a former champion. He's gone in there. Do you think it's a sport on the rise?
Yeah, I think if it's done right, like Bare Knuckle FC are doing, they're signing the right people, they're bringing in the right refs and the right, medical and cut men and stuff, and doing it all professional. And I definitely think it's a sport that's going to take over. But it's definitely a sport that could go dramatically wrong too if the wrong kind of people start trying to promote it. So you've got to be very careful.
Yeah. Well, and talking of Hendricks as well, he obviously lost his attempt in it. Do you think people underestimate the skill level in bare knuckle boxing because visually it looks a bit more old school and a bit more of a throwback sport?
Yeah, I think, even myself coming up as an MMA fighter, I didn't ever really respect boxers. I thought it looked easy. They only had to worry about two things, where, MMA you've got to worry about so much, but it is a completely different kind of sport and different kind of skill level. And I definitely think some of these fighters going in there facing boxers or seasoned strikers kind of underestimate what skill level they have in striking, when they can't rely on a takedown. So, and then to hit bare knuckle, it just changes the game completely.
Right. So I wanted to sort of change avenues here a little bit. Unfortunately, you've had a history with domestic violence, and the new story in the UFC is that they're in the Greg Hardy business, and he's going to be the co-main for their upcoming ESPN card. Do you have any thoughts on that? Or are you more like Rachel Ostovich and say, well, it's everyone's own story?
Look, I'm a big believer in people can change. I definitely feel like, if you've done something bad, you do deserve a second chance if you've proven that you want to change and that you did something wrong. I don't think that's the case with Greg Hardy. He paid his way out of it. It never went to court because he just paid his way through it. And just the circumstances with that case, I looked into it. I wanted to make sure that I before passing judgment, I knew what, went on with it all. And I don't think he's the kind of person the UFC should have fighting for them. I think it sends out a very bad message. So definitely not for that decision, but, you know, it's their business and they want to promote him. That's on them. But I'd be steering clear of that guy.
Yeah. Do you feel like his attitude as well in interviews? Do you think that shows the same sort of thing as you were just saying? Perhaps a lack of remorse?
Yeah, just the whole thing, you know, the whole incident was just, it's not like he had an argument with his girlfriend and they kind of lost their tempers. It was very disgusting, you know, the whole case. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't think he's remorseful. I think he's been dumped by the Football League and gone, you know what, I can go give it a go in UFC, they'll have me. I don't think he's remorseful or sorry or even thinks he did anything wrong. So, yeah, it's not... I don't know. Yeah. Doesn't sit well with me, that's for sure.
That's fair enough, and I appreciate you being so candid. Onto a bit more of a positive message. I saw on your Instagram you've been using the McGregor fast system, and actually something Conor himself shared on his Instagram. Do you have a relationship with Conor, and what made you choose that system to train with?
Look, I met Conor on The Ultimate Fighter. He was actually like a guest fighter on The Ultimate Fighter 20. But, you know, we didn't really start talking much or anything until I started fighting bare knuckle, and I think he showed an interest in, you know, the sport and that. So he's reached out and asked, you know, said, he saw that I do treadmill workouts and things like that. He's like, hey, give this a go, see how you like it. And it's kind of just gone from there. So I'm really excited to be using the McGregor fast cardio workouts and things like that. So yeah, it's showing that it's worked. I feel fitter and faster, so I'm excited to see how far I can take it and see how I perform in Cancun.
Very good. Is that a bit of a surreal moment when McGregor sort of just randomly messages you and talks to you about bare knuckle boxing? What's that like?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. You know, I think you know, a lot of fighters reached out to me after my first fight. I think bare knuckle, you know, if someone to go out there and fight bare knuckle kind of gains a lot of respect from fighters because it's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So yeah, it was pretty cool to, you know, get recognition from big fighters, especially someone like Conor McGregor, to show, like, you know, respect and interest in something that I'm doing is pretty cool. You know, I think he just loves fighting and the rawness of bare knuckle. So yeah, I had a lot of fighters reach out to me about it, which is awesome. It's cool to get support from everyone. Yeah. That
is really cool. So I guess just wrapping up, and I appreciate the time, but so do you think you're going to be sticking to bare knuckle boxing for the foreseeable future, or is a return to MMA always possible? What do you think your 2019 going to look like?
Look, I've always been open to be fighting both. I'm signed exclusively to bare knuckle for bare knuckle, but that doesn't stop me from being able to fight in MMA. So I do love MMA. I do miss, you know, the aspect of jiu-jitsu and wrestling and all of that. So if the opportunity came up, I'd definitely fight MMA as well. But I have a belt to defend in bare knuckle, and that's really the only thing on my mind right now is defending this championship and you know, creating my legacy within this sport.
Cool. Well, Bec, thank you very much for the time. I really appreciate it. I know you weren't hungover, but the boyfriend was, so I do appreciate it. It's so close to New Year's Eve. It's not easy for everyone, Bec. You know, some of us have to struggle through.
It was a hard day for him, but I was fine and rubbing it in. So.
Oh, there you go. The worst sort of person to be around when you're feeling fragile.
Oh yeah.
All right, Bec. Thank you so much. I appreciate talking to you.